Ben Barr here with Scott Zolotorow. Terps dropping a tough defeat here today against Syracuse, 20-3 at home at Byrd Stadium. It was a big blackout Saturday, a big exciting crowd here today, looking to finally secure that sixth win to get them bowl eligible. It would have been their third attempt today, and just really the Terps offense not looking good today at all.
Well, the offense looked okay when they were on their own side of the field, and they drove every single time. They got past midfield 8 times. 8 times they went into Syracuse territory, and 7 times came away with no points. And they only came away with 3 points total. So 7 of 8 in Syracuse territory, not scoring. You're never going to win a football game like that. Even if you're playing against a JV football team, it just doesn't happen. You got to score points. They did drive, a lot of drop passes. CJ Brown had a rough day, a couple of bad interceptions in the red zone, but they can come back. They can still bounce back.
Yeah, they had a lot of costly mistakes in the Syracuse half of the field where they could have come away with points a lot of the times. But on the other side, Syracuse was paced by a really good rushing effort by Jerome Smith here today. He finished with 118 yards, a pair of touchdown runs, as well as the effort of Terrell Hunt. He looked good today running the option for the Orange.
Yeah, Terrell Hunt, I mean, we said the pregame show was going to be a huge threat. He's a Taj Boyd-like quarterback, and Maryland will see another one next week with Logan Thomas. He's a dual threat, the option type. Every single play, the ball went to the belly of the running back, whether it was going to be a pullback for him to run it, a play-action pass, or a handoff. Every single play. So Maryland, almost like in a Navy style, except for without the crazy wing, wishbone type of formation, but still Maryland had no answer for him, and they had the Thunder in Jerome Smith, and they had the Lightning in George Morris, and then they had Terrell Hunt, who looked pretty good and had a real long run that set that second touchdown.
And I thought George Morris was going to be the player that could ice the game for Syracuse coming out at halftime, but really Jerome Smith remained a really good, strong power running back here today for the Orange. He was very effective from beginning to end. And the Terps, they were coming off of an open date. Remember, they lost a 2 weeks ago. They had the open date. They were hoping that CJ Brown would come back and be very good and healthy finally, and the open date obviously was a favor for that, but he just did not look in sync the whole game.
Well, he showed some great flashes, especially towards the end of that game, stepping up, running through the pocket, and then throwing some nice strikes. Maryland did not help him a lot too much when they got down the other side of the field. A lot of drop passes, and you know, the more and more drop passes you have, the more and more you got to throw the ball in these third and long situations, and that's where these turnovers come from. The biggest play of the game was when Maryland's the 19-yard line, and CJ Brown throwing it into the wind threw an interception in double coverage in the end zone, and Maryland, if they would have scored a touchdown on that possession, would have tied the game at 10, would have been down 10-7. That was before they kicked the field goal, and there was just no coming back from that. Syracuse marched down the field and kicked the field goal, and that was when it was.
It's still a completely different look and thought process and a type of game situation there if that would have happened for the Terps.
Absolutely. I mean, a couple things go differently. This is a different scoring game, and again, the biggest thing that comes away from this game was 8 times across the 50-yard line and not scoring on 7 of them and turning it over 4 times. After you work so hard to get down there, there was the only drive Maryland scored on was they were gifted 55 yards in penalties and almost turned it over again, and they just couldn't take advantage, could not get the ball into the end zone. And if you can't score a touchdown against Syracuse at home, you're not going to win a game.
And it's only going to get tougher from here, you know. Terps really, they had a good opportunity here to get that 6th win to get bowl eligible, you know, and it's kind of funny because 2 weeks ago, Laverne Jacobs had a career day for the Terps, and today it was actually Amba Edetawa. He finished with 109 receiving yards. He looked really good today, but obviously was overshadowed by the sloppy Terps offense, and will likely come away with a pretty good interception cutting that slant route. So it wasn't all for naught. There were still some good performances on the Maryland side.
Yeah, I mean, some things, there's always some positives, but this week, the negatives just 100-fold times over just outweighed the positives, and unfortunately, it was a really tough loss at home. Second to last ever home ACC games for the Maryland Terrapins, and the only one they got left is Boston College. Another tough team was played Florida State, Clemson, and Virginia Tech, all very close. They beat Virginia Tech last week, so Maryland, the road doesn't get much easier. If they want to become bowl eligible, they've got to do things. They've got to play beyond their current potential, which means they got to go down into Blacksburg next week. And I'm not saying they have to win that game. They have to give up a good fight, because the confidence after losing 20-3 at home, that's got to be a little bit lower and lower and lower each time you turn it over.
So the Terps will look to turn around after this 20-3 loss in the first and last ACC football game against Syracuse. You can catch Maryland at Virginia Tech next week. Scott will be down there with Ryan Wormley on the call for WMUCsports.com.